Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and this is the only G.I. Joe podcast where we watch every single episode of G.I. Joe, a real American hero, in sequential order and comment on it mystery science style. I'm excited this week because I'm in the valley. We're in the valley, right? It's the valley.
We're on the edges of the valley.
We're on the edges of the valley in sunny California. I've been to the valley like maybe 5 times in my life.
Oh no,
you know, that's absolutely true. So
it's terrible.
Yeah, so I don't know if like I'm gonna. Isn't this where they discovered Encino Man?
This is near the Porter Ranch gas leak. So you're probably being poisoned.
There's a gas leak.
There was like years ago, and we had to be evacuated. It's horrible. So we're like Northridge, Porter Ranch. We're on the edges of the valley.
Northridge. There was a big earthquake in Northridge.
That's true. But that was like 92.
Well, I'm excited because not only am I in the valley, which is just 10 levels of excitement, but I'm also
there's a lot of great movies that take place in the valley.
It's true. 3 days in the valley.
Yeah, 3 days in the valley.
So Valley Girl,
absolutely.
And
Fast Times at Ridgemont
That's
High.
true. That's so true. Bill and Ted.
No, that's San Dimas.
Where's San Dimas?
That's like east, I think.
Okay.
I think I've been there once. I think that's like where Raging Waters is.
Well, I'm sitting here with a new friend, a real talent, and a guy who is who's got his geek bona fides ranking high. He's the host of his own podcast. It's called Part-Time Fanboy. He's also the co-creator of Baby Badass, which, if you guys remember our episode with David Schrader, last fall, I think we had him on.
It was like episode.
It was a while ago. Yeah, maybe it was a while ago then. Yeah, but we've talked about it since. And Baby Badass is out on the stands right now. The trade paperback either hit stands when this is launching or it's about to.
Yeah.
And my guest is the co-creator of Baby Badass. His name is Kristian Horn, and he's a super talent. And he is now on Joe on Joe. Welcome,
I'm on Joe
Kristian.
on Joe. Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah,
this is great. This is the first time I've ever been interviewed. So,
well, your podcast, Part-Time Fanboy, you guys get into kind of all things fanboy.
Yeah,
right?
we just talk about all nerd stuff, movies, TV shows, comics, and stuff like that. Anything that sort of just like pops into my head, I kind of like run it. So I'm lucky enough to have a group of friends that will weekly or bi-weekly or whatever join me in talking about whatever is out there. So like we're probably going to do Deadpool 2 soon, which was
amazing.
Yeah, which was really, really
We're
solid.
Recording this the weekend of release,
yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I don't think it was like as brazenly original as like the first one or as like tightly constructed, but it still was like a really great time at the movie. So I had a good time. So yeah, we'll probably be doing that. And then I tend to interview comic creators, people who want to come on, people who are like doing Kickstarters or or anybody that I can sort of like trick into coming onto my podcast because it's a fun podcast. It's I've been told it's a good listen. I enjoy doing it, but we're not the Nerdist or anything like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, who is?
Yeah,
who
or
is?
Kevin Smith. Or whatever.
Podcasts are all about specific things and finding your audience and getting your voice out there in the world. So I celebrate having more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. And you can find Part-Time Fanboy. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, probably Stitcher.
Stitcher. It's on Stitcher. It's on iTunes. Yeah.
Wherever you find your podcasts. Yeah. You can find them on Twitter at Part-Time Fanboy, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all Part-Time Fanboy. It's one word with 2 T's in the middle, which you helped me figure out earlier on.
Well, it's funny because if you were writing that out, it would obviously there's 2 T's.
Yeah.
But if you're putting it into a handle, you want to go, oh, I just need 1 T there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense to have 1 T.
Yeah.
there.
But you helped me realize like, oh, I should point out that there's 2 T's in the middle because somebody might just think it's 1, but it's actually 2.
And besides being a talented podcaster, you're an artist.
Yes, you can call it that. Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, I'll definitely call it that. I've seen your stuff. It's great.
Thank you.
You helped co-create and did like the production design on Baby Badass to kind of get that going with David. And you work as an online media producer for Disney.
Yes. Well, mostly it's like photo retouching and like media management. Basically, for the consumer websites like Disney Store and Marvel Store, it's a lot of like, I'm part of the photography department. So they take pictures of the product. So like all the toys and stuff and things that you see on the site, they get shot, they get model shots and stuff. And I tend to be the one that's either clipping them out, putting them on a basic like white background, or touching up the model shots, making things look pretty so that they're presentable for the websites, and then making sure that all those images go where they're supposed to go on the site. So you're not seeing Spider-Man show up like in a Mickey Mouse,
right.
Things like that. And then aiding with like the production department and the buyers and all that to make sure everyone's happy with the imagery that we get on the site.
So are you like a primo Photoshop guy? Like, is that?
I'm pretty humble but I think people tell me that I'm good at it. Like, I'm not the type of person that's going to be like, I'm awesome at Photoshop. And, the thing is, you will see like tutorials and there's always something to learn because it's such a huge program.
It really is.
Yeah, it's
massive program.
Yeah. So there's always something to learn in it. So I can't say like I'm not like one of these what do they call them? Adobe evangelical, whatever, like these people that work for Adobe and know like everything inside out. But if you need something retouched, if you need like something colored, I've helped people color comics. If you need things like that, I can do it. I've also, gone in and, I do some video editing, so I can use Photoshop to remove things and put things back in, for short clips. And so, I would say I was very good at Photoshop.
So my judge of someone better at Photoshop or better at any software is how fast they can do it. If I see their fingers moving faster than mine, then I go, oh, they know what they're doing. Even if they don't, even if they're just going from menu to menu to menu to find the command they're looking for, in my brain I go, oh, wow, they're awesome.
Yeah. Well,
their fingers are flying faster than mine.
Well, that's one of the things is like we have to work really fast. Like there's tons of images. Like we sell so many things, and the more things that Disney buys, Star Wars, Marvel, now 20th Century Fox, like all that, the more product that comes in. So we have to work faster. So it can be a bit of a production house sort of like vibe, but there are opportunities to work on like, lifestyle, which are model images and things like that, where I really love to, you get to shine and, hey, like the skin color is off or this, stuff like that. So we do work quickly and we do work fast and we knock stuff out.
Did you just admit to race changing
models
models
for
Disney?
I did not do that.
I think you did.
No.
I think you heard it here first, everyone.
Like if the lighting
Disney
is too
changes
bright,
the races
no,
of
oh
their
my God, I'm not going to get in trouble
I know
for
what
that.
You're saying.
No, it's basically like there's the lighting's too harsh or too soft.
Yeah, sure.
We had a thing where there was something that was shot in sunlight and all the colors were off. So I basically had to go in and correct everything.
It's so funny. Color correction is such an important part of the finished product for almost any kind of like geek media or media really. Anything you see, it's all about color correction. No more so evident than in Justice League when they brightened up everyone's colors. And the problems with that movie aside, all of a sudden you saw that version of Superman in a bright blue suit brighter blue suit, and you were like, oh, I like him more.
Yeah.
I just like that character.
Yeah.
I feel more optimistic about that version of Superman because he's in a brighter blue suit.
Yeah.
It's so weird how much that affects us without really thinking about it.
Yeah, and that's like a whole other skill set. But the thing that you learn about Photoshop or the misunderstanding, like you will see a lot of stuff that's out there. Like oh gosh, how do I get into it? It's the thing of it is nothing is real out there. Like magazines, packaging, blah, blah, blah. Everything that you're looking at is fake. And there is sort of a different level of sort of adjusting things to bring them to sort of realism or just going like bizarro, like crazy, like we're going to make somebody like super thin that isn't super thin. So there's like different levels of like photo retouching and stuff like that. And luckily I'm at a place where, you go to a photo shoot and somebody's skin is maybe the lights are washing them out. And that I don't consider like something like really terrible. But when you're talking about like photoshopping models to make them like more hourglass figures, you know, that's sort of like where I'm like, okay, this has kind of gone off the rails.
I
so
totally
it can
agree.
be used for like the atom bomb. It can be used for good, or it can be used, well, not good, but the atom. Let's say splitting the atom. It can be used for good, or it can be used for bad. So luckily, I'm in a place where they don't ask us to do that sort of thing.
I know what you're saying. I've been lucky enough to be on a handful of stupid televised things, game shows or whatnot. And I'm very pale. I'm just a white dude with pale skin. I'm not out in the sun a ton. And when I get under the lights, I have no eyebrows. I have zero eyebrows. So you know, it's not computer retouching, but they have to come in and draw in eyebrows for me. Even though I have in normal light, I have eyebrows. But as soon as the light hits them, it's blonde. They go away. So like that was one of the first things I learned about myself when we came out here and started doing fun stuff like that. I'm like, oh yeah, now I have to like wear makeup to just regular. We're shooting a webcam at the store before I leave the house. Because otherwise I look like a weird, like caveman with just all forehead, no eyebrows. And so that to extrapolate that to the Photoshop stuff, that's the same concept of you're not altering what they look like. You're just you're accentuating what you would normally see in day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of the good thing about it. I mean, Photoshop gets a lot of you know, people freaking out like, oh my God, is this touched up? And it's like, sorry, I hate to break it to you, but pretty much everything's touched up.
Nothing,
and so
nothing that you release for public consumption is raw.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in a way, that's Lucas's to get, you know, fanboyish. Let's bring it back to geek stuff. That's always been Lucas's argument as to why he feels he can just constantly, you know, at the time, tweak the Star Wars movies.
Sure, which I disagree with, but anyway.
Yeah, right. But he was always like, it's never been the same. So why not keep tweaking it? You know, and I would say to that, I would say, you've gone too far, sir.
Exactly. I mean, are you going to go in and do that to Citizen Kane? I don't think so.
Right.
Like, leave it alone. It was perfect the way it was.
But you also do some. You have a online comic called Periwinkle Puss.
Yes.
What's that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is a very sort of straightforward comic. So I wrote a long time ago. It kind of sprung out of like the whole Baby Badass thing, because anybody who's seen Baby Badass realizes that it's a very sort of mature comic where there's violence and nudity and that sort of thing. And one of the reasons,
just a clever name.
No, it's well, it is a clever name, but
not just.
But exactly. But it's that type of comic that can be a little raunchy. And when I was working on it, as I discussed before the podcast started with Dave, one of the things was sort of like the grind of drawing the pages, which is why I was not the artist on the actual book, but it was also sort of like what I was drawing. Mm-hmm. So you would have like the opening issue starts up in a strip joint, and you would have like violence and things like that. And at the time when we first started coming up with the idea, my daughter was very young, probably like, well, she was just being born, and then through the years as we developed it or kind of went back to it, you know, she was growing up, but she was really little. So there would be drawings of like ladies at a strip club, or, you know, or the only time I would have to work would be at my lunch hour, and I would be drawing like, you know, naked, you know, and stuff like that. So anyway, I started thinking like, well, that was one of the reasons I had to step back from Baby Badass. And then the other thing was like, oh, maybe I could do something that would be more appropriate for my daughter. And I came up with the idea for Periwinkle Puss, which is basically a online webcomic that is sort of a hobby for me, but it's basically two cats fighting crime in the city, and it's very derived from Batman and that sort of thing. I'm not trying to like be Watchmen or Alan Moore with this. Like I said, it's a hobby, but I do everything on it. So it takes a while for pages to come out, and it's especially disastrous when I decide that I hate a page with the last one that I did, and I like I'm redrawing it it. Because, you know, like with webcomics, you're supposed to do it like every week, and I did. I had pages like lined up. And then what happened, and I was starting to launch them in the fall, but they needed production help on Baby Badass, like, you know, tweaks to like the inside covers and stuff like that. And, you know, with a full-time job and a family, I didn't have time to do both. So I was like, okay, I got to stop Periwinkle Puss, and I'm going to go back to helping out with Baby Badass. But now that Baby Badass has launched, and, you know, Dave's actually in Pittsburgh right now, you know, at the Comic-Con there, like, you know, baby's been born. Now I have a little bit more time to go back to Periwinkle Puss.
And you draw old school, right? You draw pencils, inks?
I can do both, but I like to do pencils, and I'm discovering digital inking with I think it's Clip Art Studio or Clip Studio. It's not even Photoshop. My friend Leod Goldberg, who does the podcast with me sometimes, introduced me to it like years ago, and I was so against like learning a new program, and only in the past like year or two have I opened it up again. And it used to be called Manga Art Studio or Manga.
Yeah. They changed names.
They changed names.
Copy
like
that years ago. Okay,
yeah, it's the worst name ever. It's like Clip Art Studio, or Clip Studio Art. I can't remember, but digital inking in that is like so like. I have a shaky hand, so like when I'm very bad at inking, but I love penciling. So inking for me is very problematic, and especially trying to get that fine, like cartoon, like animated line. But with digital, it's great. But of course, I'm a glutton for punishment. Recently, I picked up like a huge chunk of like Spirit issues, like Will Eisner, and I never really read them.
There's nothing better.
Yeah, and the artwork is fantastic. And so part of my thing with computers as well is that I feel like they're a great skill to have, but it's also taking away from learning those old skills. So I'm trying to make myself ink in a traditional way with like brush pens and stuff like that. I don't think I'm very great at it. Other people have argued with me like, oh, you're too hard on yourself. But I look at something like Will Eisner, which is like, come on, that's like looking at like De Niro in his 20s at like his top, and being like, oh, I wish I could act like that. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
But still, I picked up these issues of the Spirit, and I was I have gone back and forth digitally inking the strip, but now I'm trying to just go back to traditional and see what I can do there. And not that I don't put it into Photoshop or whatever and try and clean it up as well, because I cheat. So it's funny.
I had a little bit of the reverse where in college I had my comic strip and I did everything in pen, ink pen, because it was time constraints. I did daily.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there wasn't much time. I would blue line everything loosely and then go in with pen, and so I learned quickly to get a definitive pen line down. And I never really went into more traditional inking with brushes and stuff. And then the most recent art project that I did for myself, which was a couple years ago now, it's like I went in reverse and I did it all in brushes, all in like old school brushwork, like pulling from the like Buscema style, recommendations of using these brushes and those brushes, and I loved it. It was so invigorating. I thought my line was better. It was stronger. I was just making shapes that I'd never made with pencils and pens before, and it was just so fascinating. So even if you're an amateur artist or if you're a professional, like you're working Photoshop or whatever, experiment with all types of stuff. Challenge yourself to do something different, because you'll find, oh wow, even if it's maybe you don't consider it your best looking work, it's still, you're gonna have fun. And I had fun doing it. It was just, I felt like as I was channeling old school techniques to really accomplish it. It was so much fun.
And working with like an actual brush, I don't do a lot of that because I said before, I have a shaky hand, but I have worked in stuff before. And one of the favorite things I ever did was with a brush after an artist, cartoonist named Scott Shaw, who I'm friends with once.
Who's amazing.
Who I
shouldn't we say Scott Shaw?
Shaw, exclamation point. But
one of the co-creators of Captain Carrot.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Which was the actual first comic that I ever collected. So being friends with
Captain
him,
Carrot.
I loved it too. I still love it.
Scott, hopefully you hear this.
Yeah,
I love your work.
Captain Carrot.
It's so good, dude.
But before I became, like a couple years before I kind of became friends with him, I was introduced to him through another friend. I was talking to him at Comic-Con San Diego years ago when I used to go. I don't go anymore. It's too much of a circus.
It
it's
really
too
is
crazy. But
I never thought I would move 2 hours away from it and then not want to
go.
Living in Chicago, I was always
like,
I gotta go. I gotta go.
I know.
I live 2 hours away. I've been there a couple times, and I go, I'm good.
It's too
I'm
crazy.
really good.
Yeah, but anyway, Scott Shaw, before he knew me, I think he was like in a little bit of a grumpy mood. But I was talking to him, and I said, oh yeah, I've never really done anything with a brush because I'm scared of brush. And he says to me something like, you can't be a real artist unless you've done something with a brush. And I was like, oh shit. And like literally that weekend I went home, worked on something with a brush, and I loved it. Now, the thing of it is that you can't necessarily take brushes and ink pens, like a lot of the stuff I do is on my lunch hour at work. So
yeah.
I have to use like brush pens and
it's all
micron.
Absolutely, it's all about what's best
Frank
for
Cho
the
uses.
job.
Yeah. And Frank Cho uses microns. Like that's all. And I'm like, how are you getting that result with the mic? But anyway, so I do. If I ever have the time to sit down with a brush, it's great, but I don't always have the time, and I'm usually taking stuff with me on the go. Like, and then if I am working at home, sometimes it's like at night and I'm tired. So like working with an inkwell and a brush is just like
you don't want an open pot of ink next to you because that'll get everywhere. It's absolutely there's pluses and drawbacks to it.
Yeah.
But it was just such a cool experience. So what's next creatively? Is it more Periwinkle Puss?
It's just more Periwinkle Puss right now, and my wife is trying to encourage me to actually, take like artist Sally tables and do that. So at some conventions, so I'm looking into like getting stuff made out of making postcards and maybe trying to like publicize like the Periwinkle Puss like at comic conventions. I'm trying to figure out the best way of doing that, because that's sort of the thing is like you have to pour money into whatever you're doing if you're going to get a table, and tables aren't free. So it's sort of like figuring out the next steps, but it's mostly like Periwinkle Puss, and I will, distract myself with drawings of like, superheroes and stuff. Because I was sort of one of those guys. I mean, I always wanted to create comics as a kid, but I didn't know that I wanted to draw other people's stuff. Like I wanted to do my own sort of thing. So for now, it's Periwinkle Puss. There are other ideas I have for comics and stuff, but I just don't have time to pursue everything. It's
I think from what I can see, you're doing a damn good job. For real.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm going to call you for therapy when I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. Because literally before I put any page of the Periwinkle Puss up, I'm like, I hate this, but I'm going to do it. I am like Woody Allen neurotic. I mean, I'm not Woody Allen like child molester. I'm Woody Allen neurotic. Like I am so like, this is the thing is like people look at me and they think like, oh, square jawed white guy. Like, yeah, he knows like and no, I'm like Richard Lewis, like Woody Allen. I am so neurotic about like my own ability and talent and whatever, which is why I'm rambling right now.
Feel free to reach out to me for any therapy you need. And if you want to reach out for me to therapy, that goes for all you listeners. You can find me online at Joe on Joe Pod. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. I love having listeners on the show as guests. We're going to watch G.I. Joe. We're going to get into G.I. Joe in about 30 seconds from now.
I can't believe we haven't said that
I know. Well, it's you got to wait. It's anticipation. And most importantly, if you're listening and you want to help support the show, please go to patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod and check out our Patreon. We just started a couple months ago. Ooh. We're growing every week, and we've got Patreon exclusive podcasts. So we do Joe on Joe Illustrated, which is me breaking down every single issue of G.I. Joe, the comic book, page by page, layout by layout. You probably would dig it very much.
I probably would.
And we look at like panel designs, and we look at like literally a scholarly look at these issue by issue. It's not just a regular review show of, hey, I like this book. It is, oh no, we're going to get as deep as I can possibly get. We talk about other comics that were on the stands at the time to give you kind of a historical, kind of a wrap of, this is what was happening in the comic industry
that's amazing.
When this hit the shelf. And then boom, here's the issue. And it's a lot of fun. And that's our Patreon only. For only $3, you get full access to all those episodes. And I'm loving doing it.
That's great.
Loving doing it. It's as much as the DIC episodes may have deflated it for me, the Joe and Joe Illustrated has taken me up to the next level. Because
is DIC Dick or Deke? It was pronounced
we'll
Deke,
say
right?
Deke. Yeah, we'll say Deke.
I think it was Deke.
Yeah, so make sure to go to patreon.com/JoeandJoePod, and please check it out. For only $1, you can help support the show. And for $3, you get access to Joe and Joe Illustrated, which is a hell of a lot of fun. And yes, now let's get into it. Deke is what we're talking about. Now, this week's episode is called Night of the Creepers.
Not Night of the Creeps.
Not Night of the Creeps, although I'm sure
it's a great movie.
It's a great movie, and I'm sure named after it. It's not a terrible episode. I like it.
Okay.
My positivity for this stuff is growing week on week. It really is. I think listeners, if you're a regular listener, you've heard me kind of be down on them because none of them are as good as the worst Sunbow, right?
Sure. But I mean, this is my new exposure to this.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Deke
But this is actually a pretty cool episode.
Okay.
Except there's a few character things in there that I think I find questionable. But before we get into that, let's talk with you, Kristian. What's your G.I. Joe history, man?
Well, I loved the cartoon growing up. I mean, I think we're talking like Sunbow, because when you approached me to do this, I was like, I have all of them on DVD, and you were like, oh, even the Deke episodes, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And then I did a little research, and I didn't want to spoil this viewing.
Yeah.
But I did, and I was like, oh my God, what happened? So I did love the cartoons, and I did have the toys. Because that theme song and everything, I was there. I think it's debuted as a miniseries,
yes,
right?
Yeah, there were three miniseries.
I remember the original miniseries, and I remember when it debuted, and I remember the commercials, and I just gravitated towards that sort of I mean, the style is very sort of Japanese. It's not completely Japanese, the Sunbow stuff. And so
Sunbow was a Japanese animation?
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
So it had a lot of the Robotech feel.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that. And that's the sort of, Battle of the Planets, Gatchaman,
Yep.
Now we know as Gatchaman. All that stuff, Star Blazers, something about that. And I'm dying to go to Japan as an adult. I've never been to Japan. I'm dying to go. I love anime. I love all that stuff. So when I was a kid, that G.I. Joe stuff was awesome. And, I grew up in the 80s, obviously I was there. So there was a lot of that Reagan, patriotism, the communists are going to blow us to hell, blah, blah, blah. So I was very I wouldn't say die hard about everything G.I. Joe, but I had some of the figures. I definitely had some of the vehicles. I definitely watched the cartoon with a religious ferocity. After school, I was a latchkey kid, so I would come home. And I had a lot of the stuff. I wasn't coming home with the aircraft carrier or anything apparently that exists.
There's a lot of us that weren't coming home with an aircraft carrier.
But I was really enjoying it, and it still remains to me like I said, I have them all on DVD. Recently got them several years ago when my daughter was younger. And I started watching some of them again, and I was like, oh, okay, this doesn't necessarily hold up to what I remember it. Mm-hmm. But as a kid, it is one of those memories, along with Thundercats and and even Masters of the Universe, which that's what I was hardcore into when I was a kid. Hardcore Masters of the Universe, loved He-Man, loved all that stuff. When the cartoon debuted, I was a little bit like, what? What is this? But G.I. Joe was definitely one of those things that I was like.
Well, it's
totally
funny
loving.
because let's trace that back. If you were a hardcore He-Man fan, and I loved He-Man.
Yeah,
I
love
He-Man. Even as a kid, I ranked my fandoms, and I loved G.I. Joe the most,
sure,
He-Man second,
sure,
and then Transformers.
Gotcha.
And that was literally the amount of toys I had. I had a ton of G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
I had a lot of He-Man, and I had a few Transformers.
See, I think for me it was He-Man, Transformers, and Joe might have been last.
Okay.
But the thing of it is they were sort of equal. It wasn't just because G.I. Joe was third, oh God, no.
Oh, no,
it was
not emotional.
Yeah.
Just more of where my spending dollar or more
sure,
likely my asking for presents dollar was being spent.
Absolutely.
And there was just vastly more G.I. Joe stuff to buy than He-Man. So
Yeah.
He-Man line would be 5 figures.
G.I.
Joe would be 14.
Yeah. Which was probably why I liked He-Man more, because they were easier to sort of get.
He-Man was amazing. So if you were a fan of He-Man from the start and you followed it along, they came with the comics.
Yes.
And the comics told a story of He-Man that by the time you get to the animated shows were wildly different. So there would have been a moment where you were like, man, He-Man's this caveman barbarian.
Huge moment. Yeah.
He's a barbarian who lives in the mountains.
Yeah.
And then
just Prince Adam crap.
Yeah. And then one
he's
of the,
not Shazam.
Yes,
what the hell is this?
One of the comics comes out and it's like, he doesn't live in the mountains.
And how does nobody know that He-Man is Prince Adam? They look exactly the same. It's not like he's like Superman. I put the glasses on and I slouch and maybe my suit isn't ironed and you know what I'm talking about? That was just
and he didn't even go from a Steve Rogers to pre-serum Steve Rogers like wimpy. He was
Prince
buff.
Prince Adam was ripped. He was like Schwarzenegger.
Ripped.
Yeah.
He was ripped. I remember asking my aunt Tony, God bless her, she used to make Barbie doll clothes, and she did it by the hundreds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she would sell them at flea markets and craft fairs.
Amazing.
It was amazing. So my sister's Barbies were decked out.
That's awesome.
She would just had sewing machines going, and it was all this underground Barbie clothes market in all the fashions of all the years, which it was 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So just bell bottoms and leather, just leather crazy outfits, right?
Sure.
So I remember going to my mom, I need her to make me a Prince Adam outfit for my He-Man. This is before they made the actual Prince Adam figure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, I need a Prince Adam outfit. And I was like, I don't think she has a mold fit. I go, I don't figure it out. And I remember,
so you were like demanding.
Yeah,
I was like, I must have this.
Because my brain was going, it's the same figure.
Yeah.
Just put a coat on him. And all of a sudden I got Prince Adam. Can you please get me a Prince Adam?
Yeah.
And by the time the request went through, the actual one hit the stands. And I remember being in the store, seeing it for the first time, and turning to my mom and going, don't ask Aunt Tony. We can get this later. Don't worry about it, Mom. I don't need Aunt Tony to make me a Prince Adam.
Your poor aunt was probably like trying to come up with like a template and all that stuff.
Yeah, fast forward. Cut to Fort Wayne, Indiana. She's got a half complete Prince Adam, and she just gets a call from her mom, and she goes, no.
Damn it, Joe. Damn you. How could you do that's so awesome.
Oh man.
Oh no.
So we got Night of the Creepers today. It is
right.
It's a scary episode.
Is it?
It is legit.
Is it really scary?
Well, I mean not really, but it is meant
for a kid. Would it have scared kids?
Well, let's put it this way. It scares a grown ass adult in it. It scares a grown man in this. And and that's the questionable part that I have with this.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
Okay.
So are you ready to watch?
I'm ready.
G.I. Joe, Night of the Creepers?
I'm ready to watch Night of the particularly because it's called Night of the Creepers. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like that's a great name.
It's so good. So listeners, thank you so much for listening. Remember to go to Part Time Fanboy, find him on iTunes, listen, tune into his podcast. It's fantastic.
Yes.
You will not regret it.
And periwinklepuss.com.
Periwinklepuss.com. Yeah. And give him a shout out on Twitter. Let him know what you thought of
and buy Baby Badass.
Of course, buy Baby Badass. Of course we're going to support that. Yeah. So we're going to go with Night of the Creepers, and here we go. Yeah, so the first thing you might notice is that from what you're used to, it's a different soundtrack, different show, different
What
everything.
is with this opening?
It's pretty it's pretty crazy, right?
Wow, this is not
G.I.
Joe, a real American hero. Oh my God, what did they do?
But they are highlighting all the that's Destro.
Is that Destro?
Destro's wearing
That's
gold.
not fucking Destro.
That's
Can I
Destro.
curse?
No, actually we don't, but I'll bleep it. Don't worry about it.
Oh my God.
No, yeah, that's Destro wears gold in this iteration.
What?
Yes.
Who are these people?
These are the Joes from roughly 1990 to 91, like 89, 90, 91, that era. That's
I would have been graduating high school, so I probably would not have been into this.
That's right. I was freshman in high school, sophomore in high school.
But this is like not as good.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's a well-produced opening, but it is not the old G.I. Joe that I'm... What are they doing? They're standing on that. No.
Yeah, that's
There's
their
no
band.
rotation
so we got Night
of
of the Creepers, written by Rick Merwin. Rick Merwin.
Yes, I'm excited. Okay, this is cool.
And we open with some Skyhawks, and they're part of the Sky Patrol. Which the Sky Patrol was a
who's that guy?
That is Freefall.
He's got a mustache.
Freefall.
Okay.
He's the Sky Patrol leader.
Okay.
And the Sky Force was a line of toys that they already existed.
Parachutes.
They
Nobody
already
dies.
existed.
Nobody dies in G.I. Joe.
And the toy makers put a chrome bubble on them, right?
That's Cyclops.
No. That's low light. They're night.
He looks low light, really?
Yeah, you remember low light, right? The night
remember,
sniper.
No, I do not remember low light.
Well, it's important because he is literally their night sniper specialist, and that's important to remember on this episode. But real quick, the Sky Patrol, they painted their vehicles chrome, and yet I can't imagine a more terrible choice to fly in than something bright and shiny and chrome that would target you. You would easily see in any kind of light.
Oh, wow.
I don't understand what that was all about.
That is a pink ATV vehicle.
It certainly
Cobra, who is that guy? He is driving a pink ATV. That is
Cobra
not
Commander.
Intimidating. What?
That's Cobra Commander.
That is not Cobra Commander.
That's Cobra Commander.
Look, they're wearing pink camo. This is just
wait
wrong.
Wait a minute. They're ninjas.
Shut up.
Oh, yeah.
All right, you got to tell me if I'm talking. That
called,
guy's pink. He's pink from head to toe. That is not cool. No, they're all pink. How is this?
They're night creepers. They're ninjas.
No.
They're pink ninjas.
Okay. Am I talking too much? Let me know if I'm too outraged.
Skydive. That's his name. Skydive. Not Freefall. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Skydive. That's his name. Yeah.
Wow.
And yes, they have pink ninjas and they have
There were no
chrome-plated
pink
airplanes.
ninjas in the old G.I. Joe. Look, there's pink vehicles. Why are they all pink, Joe?
This was the neon era of Joe. This is one of the reasons why G.I. Joe kind of went. Now watch this.
I'll be better once we get inside.
Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Dude, the guy's cold and he's shivering.
He's not cold. He's scared. Lowlight is literally scared of
Shut
this temple.
your mouth.
And that's the biggest problem I have with this.
Wait, he's scared?
He is scared of the
Dude,
dark.
that's Cyclops. They just took, because is this the same company that produced the X-Men cartoons?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because it looks like those 90s X-Men cartoons.
Maybe. I don't think Deke did the X-Men cartoons.
I don't
feel
know.
it was someone else.
They look a lot like it.
But it does bother me quite a bit.
He's scared of the dark?
The night fighting specialist is scared of the dark.
And is that why he wears the visor that looks like Cyclops, so he doesn't feel like he's in the dark? Is that what he just said? We were talking. So.
Well, the visor is his like night vision, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
his,
yeah.
you know, like his ultraviolet, you know, to see in the dark kind
Sure,
of vision.
sure.
So that's what that is.
Yeah.
And this is actually the third iteration of his character. He normally used to have like ski goggles, you know.
Okay,
like
yeah.
Lowlight's been around for a while. He also used to have blonde hair, like bright blonde hair.
What happened?
Well, they just changed the character. So on the show, he just goes, in the other version, he had blonde hair. And now this one, he has
He's
a
like
dark
using
black goatee.
Grecian hair for men as he got older, and it just darkened his hair.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the voice of Cobra Commander.
It is,
But why
yeah.
is he wearing a scuba mask? Like, that does not look... that's like a samurai
yeah.
helmet combined with a scuba mask. I don't even...
It
know.
is. It's his battle armor, and it was the toy of the era. So
Okay.
they designed this battle armor to sell another version of him.
Sure.
And that's the look they came up with.
There's Goldface Destro. And he's got a cape now. No capes! Although I love capes. Superman is like my favorite superhero. I love capes. Sorry.
Deke did not do the X-Men
They
cartoon.
did not?
That was Saban, S-A-B-A-N.
Oh, Saban.
Who Saban? Aren't those the guys behind
Power Rangers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Destro's got a gold sword.
Yeah, so Destro's gold kitted out, and they're going to resurrect these mummies.
Okay.
To serve as their new army, so that basically they can send dead mummy armies.
Sounds like a plan,
and I'm okay with that.
Sure,
you know, as far as MacGuffins go, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
zombies, right? You know, and look like they're
super strong.
They're super strong.
Wait,
and they're being controlled by that vest or that.
But you didn't see him put on the vest. Had he already put on the vest?
No,
before?
and none of the other ones have them on
either.
either. So maybe it's not the best.
No.
Yeah,
that's a continuity error.
Yeah, and
I can't get over it. That guy is pink and magenta, and he's a ninja.
He's a ninja, technically a night creeper, but yeah, pretty much a ninja.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I can't get over it. And he's got like white visor.
Yeah, it's a look. It's a real look.
What happened? Like, it's so funny because this is, no offense, not to disparage these episodes, but it's just the production quality is so much less.
It is.
Were these U.S. produced?
The history behind it is, so Deke is a Canadian company.
Okay.
They had offices in Beverly Hills, but they were primarily out of Canada.
Gotcha.
So what happened was G.I. Joe, the Hasbro, they did the show through Sunbow.
Yeah.
And it cost a fair amount of money. But that was during the meat era of G.I. Joe. They were making a ton of money.
They were making tons of money.
They did the movie, and then they took a year off. And when they said, hey, we need to do more cartoons, they said, how can we do them a little cheaper?
Yeah.
So Sunbow was like, we can't do it cheap. Like, that's a good show with good high-quality production.
Yeah.
Whatever, however, sometimes there's flaws and everything.
Yeah, but good for Sunbow, though.
Yeah, so Deke came in and said, well, we can do it for super cheap. And so what I've...
Obviously.
So what I've learned, what that means in animation terms is...
Who's that guy?
That was a range viper.
Okay.
And he was sneaking up on him.
Gotcha.
Range vipers are guys who survive in the outback.
Okay.
Well. So what that means in animation terms, it's less animation. So it's not necessarily
less movement.
So it's not necessarily that the designs are bad, and we want to be. I try to be clear on this because originally, if you listen to this pod, even like going back 10 episodes, I was always like, terrible, brr.
Yeah.
But I really come to learn I'm not against necessarily the designs. One, they're based on the toy and they're very toy specific.
Sure. Okay.
But it's more about there's not as much money spent literally animating it.
Yeah.
So it's not as fluid. They don't move as well. There's not as much. There's not as many things going on in the background.
Sure.
So that,
but wait,
doesn't. The overall aesthetic is not as good.
Okay, but was the ninja pink on the toy too?
On the toy. Oh yeah.
Oh Jesus.
That's
what were they taking?
Deke does really well. They're super toy specific.
Okay.
Like to a fault sometimes. Like sometimes they'll have these guys in situations where they should not be wearing their outfits. Like lounging around poolside.
Oh God.
But they will just have them in their uniforms because either it was more expensive to animate them otherwise, or they just wanted to stay focused on this is the toy you want to buy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Also, for the record, this is not the first time that the Night Creeper, so he's outfitted these zombies with Night Creeper uniforms.
Pink Night Creeper.
Yeah.
So they're not only are they zombies, they're in pink.
Yeah.
So they're the least intimidating zombies you're ever going to come up against. And I am scared of zombies.
I don't know. Have you ever been to West Hollywood on Halloween?
Oh, no.
There's some very intimidating pink zombies there.
Okay. They are pretty muscular.
So this is not the first time that the Night Creeper leader has fallen victim to some kind of. There was a previous episode. He thought he was King Tut. Like he got hit in the head and thought he was like an ancient.
I wish everyone could see the look on my face right now.
This is kind of par for the course. We're going to go to commercial and be right back. Today's file card is on the Cobra Sea Ray Navigator, codenamed Sea Slug. Sea Slugs are chosen from the ranks of eels, the Cobra Frogmen. As such, they are qualified in underwater demolitions, small boat tactics, and a wide range of sonar gear. Specialized Sea Slug training concentrates on the use of Sea Ray Tactical Submersible and its variants. The 3 phases of Sea Ray training are river sand ports, deep ocean, and the Arctic. The training cadre expects a 35% attrition rate during the Arctic phase. Quote, the Sea Ray is coated with a rubberized damper that sends back an extremely indistinct bounce on all known sonars. It's also equipped with a noise generator that can mimic the sounds produced by a humpback whale. It also has almost no heat signature. It sits very low in the water when on the surface. In other words, they are very hard to detect, and once you've found them, you have to deal with the sea slugs that man them. I think the sea slugs are a really cool design, especially for a pilot. A lot of times the pilots get a little short shrift, not as much detail put into them. But this guy looks really great. I like they give him short sleeves, which is cool because you see that a lot in aquatic situations, although I hope he bundles up when he's going into that Arctic situation. He's got sweet, like, jagged shoulder pads. His boots are absolutely crazy with like these pods on the side of them. Gun holster across his right thigh. And he's got black gloves and a really sweet logo right on the left part of his chest. The only thing that's really garish or off about it is the choice of going bright purple. But somehow for some reason that doesn't bother me as much because he's riding in the cockpit of his plane, which is the Cobra Sea Ray. The Cobra Sea Ray, I'm a big fan of. I had the Cobra Sea Ray. I think it's a really nicely designed toy. You've got the gray vehicle with the black back fin. It separates into pieces, so the front part, kind of like an ejection pod, can shoot off and maybe swim into places crevices that it needs to get into. There's 8 missiles on it. The cockpit has a tinted pink cockpit, which blends in with the pink/purple of the guy's uniform. It looks kind of like a manta ray, which is perfect. It absolutely can sit on the shelf next to some of the classic vehicles. I think the only drawback is this color scheme. Had this gone with a more traditional, less neon-y kind of pink, I think this would be considered as one of like the classic Cobra vehicles because it's got that kind of potential. But otherwise, I'm a fan. I think it works really well. And the Sea Slug works absolutely in conjunction with it. So, Sea Slugs, all you navigators for the Cobra Sea Ray, we salute you. This is par for the course, really, for Night Creeper. What's happening here? That he's worshiping this ancient.
Oh, okay.
He's worshiping an ancient
leader. So he's a ninja. He dresses in pink and he worships like Egyptian gods.
But
technically, was that an Egyptian god? Because that looked like Hindu or Indian to me.
Yeah, this is Hindu Indian. Okay. Basically, he's like whatever mystical element they need to attach to Cobra, they bring in the Night Creeper.
He's bringing the Night Creeper. Okay.
Yeah. And that's Scoop.
So he's like the Cobra religious expert.
Yeah. So that's right.
I didn't know they had one.
That's Scoop, who is an
ice cream scooper.
He was a newspaper reporter, or a TV reporter,
sure,
who went on a mission with G.I. Joe, was actually in the cartoon. He was a double agent. He was actually a Cobra soldier in disguise.
Okay.
But G.I. Joe didn't know that. They invited him to be a part of their team. He then started to double cross him, but then he didn't double cross him, and they still kept him on the team. He has no rights to be a G.I. Joe member. And yet, here he is.
Oh, what is happening? Enter creepy
little girl from The Ring? Yeah, that's what we're about to say.
Wow.
Because it is creepy little girl from The Ring.
She's creepy.
Yeah, and she walks in this room, and she's animated kind of cool, though. Like, I like the way she looked.
She kind of came in and kind of came out.
Yeah, and she spoke with a deep echo and told them that they have to find the heart of darkness. That's the MacGuffin for the Joes in this episode.
They have to find the heart.
Yeah, and that's what's going to stop these zombies.
That is not Egyptian. She is not Egyptian.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No. That was another episode.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not the first time that dude's been trapped.
So she just talked and her head moved, but her lips didn't really. Her head was going back and forth. But what happened there?
It could be an animation thing.
Yeah,
but
it was
I will say
animation.
maybe there's a reason for that. I'm just gonna say
foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Maybe that's not an animation mistake.
Foreshadowing.
Here we go. That is
Native American. Joe?
Yes, he is. That's Russian.
Good.
That's Red Star.
There's a Russian Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is after the wall.
Do you remember the Crimson Guard at all?
Sort of, yes.
Yeah, this is after the wall. And so they incorporated the Russians into the Joe team.
Glasnost.
Yeah, Glasnost, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. That is, he's the G.I. Joe hostage negotiator guy. His name's Bullhorn.
Okay.
And he's like there to go like, hey, get off the ledge. Don't want to kill yourself.
No way.
Yeah, that's Bullhorn. Yeah.
Bullhorn?
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Now G.I. Joe has begun to retreat. Step up the attack.
Okay, that is really, like Cobra is pointing down. That is a really bad pose, I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever they do...
they moan. They're
high,
moaning. They're creepily moaning.
Yeah, when there's like high angles, the animation gets a little wonky.
Yeah.
You know?
They're still driving in pink. I mean, come on, look, I know you have to differentiate the vehicles somehow, but pink, really?
That's the first appearance of Heavy Duty.
Heavy Duty.
Or
okay.
I think he was technically in an earlier scene, but this episode is Heavy Duty's first appearance on the show. Heavy Duty, do you remember Roadblock?
Yes, I remember
Heavy
Roadblock.
Duty was the replacement for Roadblock because there was problems with the copyright.
Really?
Yes.
Why? What did they do?
I don't know. No one's really ever... I've read multiple blogs on this.
Really?
But basically, someone at Hasbro between... like 87, 88, and in 1990, 91, someone like didn't renew the copyright on Roadblock. And so they needed a new like African American heavy duty machine gunner. So they made a guy named Heavy Duty. And so then over the years, and there was a really great blog. I'm blanking on the name of it. I was just reading it for this show. They fluctuated between using either one of them because at times they would say, "Oh, the name Heavy Duty resonates better with kids," but everyone was like, but Roadblock's like better, like by far better. They even went so far as to make Heavy Duty Roadblock's cousin, technically, like file card wise.
Why didn't they just say Roadblock changed his name to Heavy Duty?
Because
that makes too much sense.
I think it was too late at that point because they came out with Heavy Duty and and everyone loved Roadblock Roadblock and what was it? They even gave no, I'm sorry. There was a third guy then that they called Heavy. He looked just like Roadblock.
I thought comic books were confusing.
Totally, but it's all due to weird copyright things. So that's why in the first G.I. Joe movie, it's not Roadblock.
Oh, okay.
They had to wait till the second movie where they brought in The Rock to play Roadblock. They used Heavy Duty in the first movie because there were still some weird issues.
I've only seen the first G.I. Joe movie, and that's all I needed to see. I don't even think I saw the whole thing.
I'm sure I'm getting some of the details a little wrong here, but the point of it is Heavy Duty is a poor man's clone of Roadblock, but they couldn't use him for copyright purposes. And then over the years, it's flip-flopped and such that fans were like, we want Roadblock, we don't care about Heavy Duty.
So that's a Russian guy, but he doesn't have any red on him to denote that he is from Russia.
No,
or
I think
he's not patriotic at all.
Star, I think on the figure is here. It's yellow. I think it was red on the figure.
Okay, well that would make more sense. Okay,
but they don't actually on the show. They never refer to him as Red Star.
What do they call him?
It's a Colonel Colonel Brekov or something. Or not Brekov. It's not Brekov because that's someone else. But it's Colonel whatever his Russian name is.
Putin?
Something. But it's weird. They never call him Red Star on the show, which makes me think that might have been another copyright thing where they couldn't use that name on the TV show.
Wow. So they could use it for the figure, but not for the show?
I don't know. It's
That's
weird.
odd.
It's weird. They only ever call him Colonel Brimoff or Brimkoff.
I know that there's a comic called Red Star, right?
Well,
But
there was there was some DC comic book characters called Red Star.
Oh.
He was Russian.
He was Russian, sure.
Yeah. He was with the New Teen Titans.
So now they've infiltrated. They've found looks like Hindu deity.
This is the Hindu god.
Yes.
And that heart of darkness on his chest.
That's what they need.
That's what they need to stop.
But he's not giving it up.
Right.
He's gonna kick some ass.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that Scoop's leading the fray with his,
with his
heavily armed video camera. Like they may get killed, but he'll capture it all on film.
Maybe it's a beta cam, so it's like.
Well, we're going to commercial. We'll be right back.
Hey listeners, I'm not sure if you've heard the news, but Joe and Joe has started a Patreon, and I'm inviting you along for the ride. Go to patreon.com/JoeandJoePod and check out my page. Right now, there are 2 opportunities for you to help support the show. You can choose to be a grunt or a viper. Grunts get access to all the Joe and Joe episodes and early access to new episodes as they're created. Vipers get all that and access to my all-new spin-off podcast, Joe and Joe Illustrated, where I will be breaking down every single issue of the G.I. Joe comic books page by page in the deepest dive you'll ever hear on G.I. Joe. So go to patreon.com/JoeandJoePod and see what's happening over at the Fort Wadsworth Motor Pool. We'll see you there.
Like, I know Scoop is armed, but you can't even put a pistol in his hand or something. Like,
exactly.
He's just not.
He's just got. Is he?
Yeah, Lowlight also, and that's actually something else I've noticed on these.
He's
episodes.
got a camera. Okay.
They don't carry their guns a lot on these episodes.
No, they don't.
They really don't. Like,
No
Lowlight
blasters.
should be strapped right now.
He should
he's
be.
not.
Well, he's pointing a video camera. Now he's going to get it. Here we. Oh, here comes
Lowlight has to
Lowlight.
overcome
He's
his
like,
fears.
Oh, nice.
Here's the thing you may not know. You probably don't know.
Definitely don't know.
Lowlight, as a child, was like traumatized by his
if you hadn't beaten your fear.
uncle.
I'm traumatized by Lowlight ripping off Cyclops.
His uncle took him hunting.
Are we going into a dark place here?
His uncle, we'll wait for it.
Oh, no.
His uncle took him hunting. He got lost and spent like 2 or 3 days in the woods on his own. And when he came out, that's when he was like a battle-hardened like machine.
It only took 3 days.
And there was an episode
I thought
of the
you were
cartoon
going to say
that
his
dealt,
uncle touched him in really bad places.
See, when I did his file card, that was my in between the lines thing. Like they say it was just abandoned, but I have a feeling his uncle just was with him in the woods for 2 or 3 days.
No.
They did a whole episode about how his nightmare, he never sleeps, which you know what happens when people don't sleep, right? They go crazy.
Sure.
Yeah, he doesn't sleep. He has crazy nightmares, and he had to help the Joes conquer their nightmares. This is a totally different episode. He's nuts. Lowlight is absolutely insane. And so then in this episode, to have him be afraid of all this stuff adds to the insanity.
Sure. Okay.
He's not suitable to be a Joe guy. And I like Lowlight. He was one of my favorites. His figure is awesome.
Well,
I don't think he's suited to be a Joe. I don't think he would pass any mental test.
He's not suited to be a Joe if he's afraid of the dark.
Yes.
Okay, let's just start from there.
Yes.
That's like,
I feel like
square one. You are not suited to be a Joe.
As soon as they start the mental test, they'd be like, you know what, son? You gotta go.
You gotta go.
You're washed
Sorry,
out.
dude.
You gotta go.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, these guys have the harness.
Yeah. See, that's the animation on it. It wasn't great. So I do think it is the harness that's animating them, but they're not actually drawing it a lot.
Yeah.
So
they're like,
it's a little
screw
weird.
it. Kids won't care.
I kind of like though that they're just throwing this 2-ton Jeep off.
They're very strong.
And that I think that's it's Bullhorn. And I think it's Bulwark. That they're not jumping out of the car.
Yeah, they're not even trying.
As soon as these zombies pick the car up, let's get out of it.
Dude, so is that the deity? Oh no, that's what's his face?
Dragon Emperor, but now the true Emperor is fully awake, and his warriors will deal with you themselves.
There's a lot. Well, see, now he has his gun.
You have a gun and you
earlier.
don't shoot it. You stop. You have the Cobra guys there. You stop to answer your cell phone. No, that is not how it works. You blow and it's the 2 heads of Cobra right there, and he stops to answer his cell phone. No, you blow them away.
Yeah,
now he's caught like an idiot. I can't even. Low light.
Silence.
Low brain is more like it. Holy cow!
I love that. I love that you're into this.
I am into it.
I really do. I really dig it.
I'm fascinated by how different this is because this to me seems like a G.I. Joe episode from like a parallel universe that I never knew existed. Like awful Earth 2, like G.I. Joe.
And here's the crazy ring girl.
There's this creepy girl
who needs some conditioner. Quite frankly.
Yeah, well, she's got the Farrah thing going on, which if it's 1990, you shouldn't have the Farrah thing going on.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Maybe there's a reason for that.
Here we go. More foreshadowing.
So, Kristian, on Joe, I love to ask my guests if you could be a member of the Joe or Cobra Squad, what would you be?
Oh, I've already thought of it.
Okay.
When I was younger, I used to have, I kind of anger management issues. So but I love Captain America. So Captain America is like my favorite character. And I'd always imagine that if I were a superhero, I'd be something like Captain America or Superman. So for me, it would have to be like a super soldier kind of guy, like one of those wrestler characters that they had on G.I. Joe, but who would just lose his shit, like have a berserker rage, and just and you could call him like anger management, or you could call him
anger management's great.
Yeah, or you could call him like temper tantrum or something.
Temper tantrum's even better.
There you go. So that's my G.I. Joe.
You'd be a Joe.
You'd be a Joe,
Cobra.
not a Cobra. No,
okay.
You'd be a Joe, and you would be like Wolverine in the X-Men, like when he first showed up, where they'd be like, "Dude, I don't know about that guy. How did he pass the psychological testing?" Well, if Lowlight can pass the psychological testing, anybody can.
Can we go with temper tantrum?
Temper
tantrum's
I think that
fine.
Works
perfectly.
That works for me.
I think temper tantrum.
And
what would your specialty be? Like, would you have like?
Be like hand-to-hand combat.
Hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, it would be like survivalist hand-to-hand combat.
Okay.
Like he's crazy. Yeah, and he just every once in a while,
close quarters
like Wolverines.
Combat.
Yeah.
You probably got a lot of knives and a lot of just brass knuckles and all various types of close quarter.
And it's funny because people now who know me, they're like, "What?" Like angry. But there is we're living in the Trump era. There's like a low level.
anger.
Simmering anger, like Hulk, sort of thing.
Great. I love it. Temper tantrum.
And if I get into a nerd debate with somebody who just won't, I'll go crazy.
Welcome to the Joe and Joe team, Temper Tantrum.
Joe!
I love that name.
Nice.
That's great. So they just saluted.
I'm surprised it's not taken.
They saluted these zombies because they were soldiers. They were like, soldiers can finally rest in peace. And look at.
Are you kidding me? Is that the girl that's been...
The little girl was a ghost the whole time.
Wow. That is some M. Night Shyamalan stuff.
Did you hear that?
I don't think I'm ever going to be scared again.
If all ghosts were as nice as that little girl, I'd never have to be scared again.
Oh, jeez. Oh, so he's afraid of ghosts.
How fantastic was that?
That was beautifully awkward.
It was beautifully awkward.
Like really weird.
Another thing, so at the end of the show, Lowlight admits he hasn't conquered his feelings about being scared.
He's afraid of ghosts.
Yeah, he just conquered it this one time because he's like apparently in his world, all ghosts aren't as nice as that little girl.
My God.
So he is going to be scared again in the future. So really, we've accomplished nothing outside of stopping this little scheme. Lowlight has not grown and overcome his fears. He just goes, till next time, I'll be scared again.
Oh my God! And there's no message or thing at the end of the movie. There's no PSA.
It's not with what we watch here. We do those. Those are done separately.
Oh, okay. But they're not included on the show.
They did. They did. They don't include them on these DVDs.
Oh, that sucks.
So when we do the pod, we just do.
Are they extras?
Well, you know what's funny about that though? There are actually no on DVDs that I could find.
It's Deke.
Yeah, there are no on DVD compilations of these. They've never collected them all, and with all the different releases of these, there's only been a handful of them ever released.
Okay,
you have to go out to YouTube where fans have collected them all and put them into long runs.
Oh, really?
They don't There's no. I would think at some point one of these would have been just a disc of here's all the PSAs. They've never done anything like that.
That's crazy.
It'll be like here's 5 PSAs, but there were 20 something.
Yeah, there were
30,
a lot.
30,
I remember.
Yeah, there were a ton. So
like He-Man.
Yeah. So no. So I don't. Yeah. So they don't come with the. They don't come with the disc.
That sucks.
But
that's a
big picture, like it.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it was like I said. It's like this bizarre alternate universe G.I. Joe that I did not expect to ever encounter, and I'm feeling sort of like a little disturbed because of it. Because I'm just like, the thing of it is looking at it, I'm very much like this is like a professional production. Like, why is everything pink? And you know, it is subpar to the Sunbow stuff, but I mean, I enjoyed it. You know, it is what it is. It's like a kid's cartoon, you know, that's thinly disguised propaganda for American military, but you know, whatever.
Yeah. And I do think it falls in line with that 90s style of animation, which was very blocky.
Yes.
Without Batman the Animated Series notwithstanding.
Yeah, no.
90s animation,
that's the high
very
bar.
much like the X-Men, Spider-Man stuff. It was very much, how can we shortcut by doing less, less cells?
Sure.
They're not as animated.
Sure.
And all the figures are a little looser. There's less definition on the bodies.
Yeah.
And that was the trend for much of the 90s for all these action cartoons.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, in the 80s, like you said, it was more Japanese style, and there was more shading on the figures. There was more shadows.
Yeah.
They looked more ripped from a comic book.
Yeah.
And this really looks it's ripped from a computer game.
Yeah. Well, it very much reminds me of what I remember when the X-Men cartoon first debuted in the 90s, and everyone was kind of excited. And I watched the first episode, and there's just something about the combination of colors and the way the backgrounds are rendered or drawn that seems kind of like more loosey-goosey, where, you know, for lack of a better term, looked ugly to me. Like, I know that there are people that love those, but I could never get into those X-Men cartoons. And I remember, like, waking up early on a Sunday morning, and it was like Pride of the X-Men. They had done an X-Men pilot.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was fantastic.
That was awesome. And that was done by the G.I. Joe guys.
Yeah. Sunbow.
Yeah.
And I guess it was a pilot that never went anywhere or anything. But
Wolverine was Australian.
Like,
in that.
yeah, he's Australian. He's like, "Good day, mate. Good day. Screw you, Cyclops.
I'm gonna pop my
That's
claws
right.
up your dinghy."
Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman could have, you know. But anyway,
yeah,
so
that was a precursor to Hugh Jackman.
yeah, there you go. Woo-woo. Psychic coincidence or something more. But no, I'm saying, like, when I saw that X-Men pilot, I happened to wake up early on a Sunday morning and saw it, and I was thinking, oh my God, they're going to make an X-Men cartoon. Yeah. And then years went by and nothing, and then that X-Men cartoon got announced, and being exposed to that and being like, oh, that Pride of the X-Men was what I wanted. So seeing this, it is not what I don't know if it's not, maybe there's a kid out there who was exposed to this first and never saw the Sunbow, and it's like, oh my God, the Sunbow stuff sucks. But to me, it's like, visually, it's not as good. I mean, it is fun, but this would not be my go-to Joe experience.
I'm with
you.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. But I still like this episode, though. Honestly, the only real thing,
it had zombie mummies.
The only thing about it is I disagree with their characterization of Lowlight. Like I feel like that actually Scoop should have been the one to actually be scared, and Lowlight help him through it, or something. Yeah, like that, which would have mirrored the other episode where Lowlight helped all the people through their nightmares. But to have Lowlight all of a sudden be afraid of the dark, like what?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That's the part that
but he's not
me
really afraid of the dark. He's just scared of ghosts, which we kind of like all know don't really exist.
Ghosts?
Never. Yeah, especially
Is this a regular thing for you?
Yeah, it's just like a thing. Was it out in the woods when your uncle was touching you? I don't.
Here's the thing. Yeah, if we today encountered a real ghost, everyone should be afraid of that ghost.
Sure,
even
absolutely.
Scoop.
Yes.
Everyone should be afraid of the ghost.
Yes.
But in this world, it seems like ghosts are an acceptable thing, and only Lowlight's afraid of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and you're a military guy. Like, come on.
Oh my God.
I mean, these guys are basically like Navy SEALs times 10.
Oh,
right?
they're the best of everything.
Yeah,
combined
the greatest American hero.
One unit.
Yeah.
Well, Liz, Kristian Horn, thank you so much for being on the show today.
I loved it.
This was great. This was really great. Wide-ranging conversation.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed being on. I loved having you on. Everyone remember to go check out Part-Time Fanboy, the podcast. Check me out at Joe and Joe Pod at all your various telecommunication nodes.
Yes.
That's what these things are called, yeah. At Part-Time Fanboy, at Joe and Joe Pod. Check us out, say hi to us, and remember, now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.
That's awesome.